Welcome to this short video on getting past micromanaging. All of us have been micromanaged at some point or the other. Either we've been the micromanager or we've been micromanaged. Either ways, let's have a look at what we could do about it. First, the effects of micromanaging. Pretty obvious, but nevertheless, let's talk about it. First, it demotivates employees. So you have less of their heart, their hand available to get your work done. Second, it creates resentment. And third, it damages trust. You put all these things together, you can be sure your performance that you could have got, you're not getting. But first, let's have a look at why do managers micromanage in the first place. The first reason that the person is a details person and he wants to know what's going on. The second is that he or she is under performance pressure and is simply passing that pressure on to you. And the third is trust issues that they need to deal with. So if you're a details person, agree on the reporting format. Second, agree on the level of detail that you want the reporting. Third, agree on the time of reporting. But really the big question you must ask is my detail orientation distracting me from the big picture thinking that I need to do at my level? But what about performance pressure? Let's have a look at this. So, does performance rise when pressure is there? There's a myth which says that no pressure is good pressure. That's totally false. That's not true. But let's have a look at what the figures say. So as pressure rises, performance does go forward, but at a certain point it begins to fall. And so you have kind of three zones in this. So the zones that we are talking about is the first one where the pressure is low, the performance is low, you're really bored, you're disconnected, and that's the kind of space that you're in. But there's a great place to be in where the pressure is much higher, but the performance is also very high. You are totally alive, you're motivated, you're doing things, and that zone is called eustress. After a certain point, it becomes in distress. That's when performance falls dramatically and it's not particularly useful. So the point of this, pressure is good, but not too much pressure. So it's up to you to decide how much is the right amount of pressure, because people perform under pressure. Or could it be trust issues? Micromanaging usually signals a lack of trust. You've heard that phrase, I worry so much because I care so much. Absolutely false. The point is that either we have lack of trust in ourselves or in our team. The point is, where is it? So here's a quick idea around leading versus managing. In our old frame, our old familiar comfort zone, that's where we usually work from. But however, if you're going to a new frontier, a new place, where the organization is moving towards, that's a new frontier. If it's the old familiar comfort zone, we manage inside the paradigm, everything remains the same, we just have to do more of it. But however, when we are moving to a new frontier where the organization is moving towards, we have to lead between the paradigms, and micromanagement does not work when you're upfront for the new frontier. So what could you do about it? Use the skill-will matrix. It's a pretty straightforward one. If somebody either has a high will or a low will, or a low skill or a high skill. And the golden zone, of course, is if they have a high will and a high skill, just delegate it and let them do it. Get off their back, let them do the job, and they'll do just fine. But you make the judgment. Do they have low will or do they have low skill? Accordingly, guide, direct, or excite them. Very often at senior levels, delegation is core for the growth of the organization. So use this as a way to figure out what should I do with a specific person. So if you are a micromanager, what could you do about it? First, stop. Here are some actions that we recommend. Use the skill-will matrix to determine action. Second, stop micromanaging if it's based on your own discomfort or your own lack of trust. What should you start doing? Confront the fact that you don't know. Second, get help, inside or outside the company. Third, be teachable. And fourth, accelerate your own learning. What should you keep doing? Keep being committed to be your best, as simple as that. But here are some actions that you could take if you're a micromanager and want much better results than you're getting right now. Alright, so we're going to switch tracks now. What if you're being micromanaged? What could you do about it? So here's a hypothetical situation. Due to organization changes, you've got a new boss. Your boss micromanages you. You've got plenty of experience of your own and you don't like it. The normal reaction to something like this is you can become what we call passive aggressive, simply move back, keep distance, stay away. Or you get into a fight mode, which is, should I challenge the boss? Now, when it comes to challenging the boss, particularly in India, we have the warning which says disagreeing with your boss is injurious to your health, right? Mostly I would say this is true. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a conversation, but what kind of conversation? But before that, let's have a look at how do we manage the situation from here on. So the inner circle, that's your circle of control that you have. It's a small little circle over there, not much space to move around, but yeah, that's what's directly under your control. The second one is direct influence. What could you influence in the situation? That's a much bigger circle and gives you a lot more place to breathe. If you're just looking at your control piece, not much is going to happen. The third one is indirect influence. What could you do to change the ecosystem? What could you do to change things around the culture of the organization? Much tougher, much bigger. And finally, you have no control or influence about it. Just let it go. Broadly speaking, we'd say use direct influence and, of course, everything that's under your control. So what are your options? First, ask yourself, what's under my control or influence? First thing, ask yourself, if I were my own boss, what would I do differently or better? So that's under your control and something you can do. Second, in terms of direct influence, is have a conversation with your boss. Ask, how may I win your trust? What actions would support your confidence in me? So what's next? Confront. It's a situation that you don't have to live with, something that you don't have to put up with. Either if you're a micromanager or you're being micromanaged, both are detrimental for your career growth and something that you must stop. Control, self-correct what is in your control. There are things that you can do to turn the situation around. So go ahead and do that. And third is influence. Whatever's outside your control, what influence could you have to bear? And remember, it all begins with starting to have a conversation with people that matter. This is Bert signing off from Meta Results. Look forward to connecting with you shortly. Thank you so much.